Right, good morning everybody. Welcome to Smartexpo, bringing technology updates, products and services to the service providers, telcos and mobile operators in sub-Saharan Africa and Indian Ocean islands. So today the topic is analytics. I think it's a very interesting topic, top of mind for most people in these industries, needing to know how to analyze and understand the data that's coming across the network. The Smartexpo team, let me introduce myself to start off with. I am John Comley, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer for Khoury Africa. With me today is Denise Mzak. She is the Chief Event Coordinator for Smartexpo. The agenda we have for you today, much the same as we have on all our Smartexpos. Let me just update it for you. Firstly, about Smartexpo, we're going to talk to you a little bit about why we have Smartexpo. Then the analytics overview, a little bit of framing as to what this Smartexpo is about itself. Then delivered at Smartexpo. This is really the main part of the event where we have 4 speakers. Today we have Elie Khoury from Sandvine. We have Preggie Govender from Oracle Communications. We have Rudolf from Khoury Africa. And we have Onsel Kuluk from Sienna Blue Planet. These are our 4 speakers that will be talking to us today. At the end of the event, we have Spin to Win. Always exciting to be able to give away some vouchers. We have 3 $100 Amazon gift vouchers to give away today. You have to be in it to win it, so please stay until the end and see if your name is drawn out of the hat to be able to win these vouchers. Right, about Smartexpo, let me just take you through this. For those that are joining for the first time, where did Smartexpo come from? Well, it happened to arrive and be developed after the COVID-19 restrictions were put in place, really to bring technology updates to telcos, service providers and mobile operators, and to get some joint FaceTime with our customers. What we bring to you, latest trends, technology updates, and product updates, all with a good live expo feel. This is a live event, and hopefully you get that feel from it. What our original equipment manufacturers bring to you, short 15-minute updates, contact with key engineers. You will be able to access the engineers and the architects that are presenting to you today. Smart guides, the info packs have been made available to you for download after the event. And technical deep dive opportunities. So you'll be able to request a technical deep dive from any of the presenters today, along with one-on-one questions and answers. So after the event, we'll mail you. You go to the archive, you'll be able to pick all that information up. The main sponsor today, we need to recognize Khoury Africa. A lot of time has gone into this, a lot of effort to build Smartexpo, certainly bringing good value to our customers and our OEMs who join us on the platform. So analytics overview, I've scripted this out. I think it's quite important that we get to understand what we're doing today. The first thing, let me just read it through for you. Ever since the establishment of the internet service provider market, it has been a challenge to obtain the information required to manage the networks effectively and economically, and to provide the best quality of service. Also, as service providers' subscriber bases have grown, a greater level of abstraction between the service provider network and the customer has developed. Therefore, analytics becomes a critical tool to speedily assist the service provider customer support staff in understanding and resolving customer problems. Analytics is also critical for the long-term planning for network investment and to determine the profitability of the various services that have been deployed. And finally, today, you will learn more about how service providers can operate more efficiently with the correct tools, as well as how to understand the trends and how to take the appropriate action where required. We go straight into delivered at Smartexpo. This is where we have the 4 speakers lined up for you. Let me just tell you what you're going to be hearing today. Firstly, 15-minute power pack presentations from these speakers. There'll be no question and answer sessions. You'll be able to email the presenters afterwards, as I said earlier. The post-event access is you'll be able to replay this event. You will have smart guide downloads for each presentation. You'll have the technical deep dive that I spoke about just now, a possibility to request one of those from any of the presenters and obviously ask a question. Now, what the archive looks like is like that. So this is the one for analytics. You'll get it later in the email to you, and you'll be able to click on the replay of the event. You can download the smart guide, you can book a deep dive session, and you can ask a question of any of the presenters. So the smart guide looks like that. There's the one today for Blue Planet, where we have Onsel Kuluk on there. The reason why he's up is because he got his information to us first, so thank you for that. Right, so first up is Elie Khoury. He is from Sandvine and talking to us today on Sandvine's Active Network Intelligence. Let me introduce him to you. Elie Khoury is a Sales Engineering Director for Middle East, Turkey, and Africa, and has 15 years of experience in telco, service provider, deep packet inspection, and quality of service. So please welcome Elie Khoury. Let me just pull that up there for you. I'm going to just hand over control to you, Elie Khoury, with his presentation, Active Network Intelligence. Let me just hand to you. Okay, you up? Fantastic. We're not hearing you yet, Elie. We can't hear you. Your speaker button at the top.
Hello, thanks, John. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you.
Yes. Just a second.
Let me take that off. And
I'm going to hand you. Are you able to see my screen, John?
Yeah, let me just, no, we can't. Just give me 1 second to hand control over to you. Elie Khoury is a panelist. We need to make him a presenter. There we go. Right, so there you have the screen.
Okay.
Great. We can see you. And thanks.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks, John, for the introduction. So as John has mentioned, we're going to take you through Sandvine journey regarding Sandvine network intelligence and how do we provide analytics and how do we see analytics for operators, for enterprise, and what are you able to gain using Sandvine as analytics-based solution. The key aspect in terms of what we see today from operators' point of view is that so operators today, they have a large volume and variety of data coming into their organization. So from their perspective, they want to gain as much insights as they can get from this data that they have being generated from multiple systems that they own on their network. And they are looking for into a solution that would be clear in terms of the output that they would gain from this data, and also if they can take action based on the data that they would be getting. Several challenges are being provided here. So first of all, the operators have a concern regarding the poor data quality. So is the data that they have gathering from the existing infrastructure is related to, is it granular? Is it the best data that they can get? What exactly is needed from their side in order to get the most granular output in terms of reporting for different stakeholders within their organization. And at the same time, having multiple data sources, it would be hard for them to combine the data. So what is the best way for them in order to take the data outputs, and also how to correlate the data in a meaningful way where they are able to generate meaningful reports for different business stakeholders. And at the same time, the solution should be agile in terms of providing at any moment of time any kind of report, KPI results that anyone would be asking from an operator point of view or from an enterprise point of view. At the same time, keeping these challenges as key for our customers, our solution is mainly driven to cover all these challenges and also to leverage additional challenges that might arise later on when the operators are taking more and more advanced and complex data correlation reports that they are looking for. Just a small glimpse regarding Sandvine. So we've been in the marketplace for more than 15 years, where we are we started as a deep packet inspection company focused in terms of classifying and controlling traffic. And we've been present in more than 100 countries, 160 major operators. We're talking about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 operators, covering 2.5 billion of network users. And lately, in the last couple of years, we've been taking the deep packet inspection into active network intelligence aspect, where we are able to provide more advanced and automated closed loop solution to our customers. So the fact that we are classifying traffic, identifying it, and taking action, we have closed the loop in terms of automation aspect, which we're gonna discuss the automation part in the future automation session that we will have. Our foundation is data visibility and accuracy, which is a core functionality for our solution. So the fact that we see the data and we are accurately classifying the data. And when we talk about classification, the key driver for Sandvine is to reach up to 0% of unknown traffic. So here we're talking about classifying all data content in terms of web or non-web regarding application, encrypted and non-encrypted traffic. At the same time, our aim is to help our customers to maximize their OPEX savings. We have a variety of use cases portfolio that we are able to provide to our customers, covering FTTH, cable, mobile, satellite, Wi-Fi, wholesale, transit, enterprise market in different verticals, talking about analytics, which we are going to discuss in our session today, network optimization, rev generation, rev assurance, regulatory compliance, and automation. Our foundational and key techniques that we are relying in terms of making sure that analytics and the data that we are generating to our customers is key in their data correlation and reporting is based on the fact on proactively making sure that whenever we are classifying the data, we are able to provide the most advanced classification. We use multiple techniques in terms of regular expressions, behavioral correlation, trackers, analyzers, and machine learning. And the fact that we're correlating and taking all these aspects and tracks in terms of classifying our content is to be able to proactively make sure that whenever you have a change in any application regarding VoIP or regarding web content or regarding video streaming or regarding online gaming, we would be always ahead in the game in order to be able to classify the traffic and to generate accurate analytics regarding this. So based on all these criteria and KPIs, we are able to aim for the 0% unknown, which is extremely hard, but we are always making sure that we are close to this value in order to give us like a market leadership in terms of classifying the traffic and generating analytics for this traffic. So we would support our customers in order to better understand their networks and their users. So what is the quality of experience for the network or the user, the favorite apps, the locations, the devices that are being used, and how are they in terms of data hungry? So where the consumption is being consumed and what is the impact on the network based on the insights that we are providing. A small brief regarding the deployment in terms of Sandvine use case building blocks. So here we are talking about us being deployed either offline or inline. Offline, if you would like to generate only statistics, not to take action in terms of optimize or shape any or block any content. So you would be able to deploy our solution offline or inline on the data plane layer. It can be close to the subscriber or close to the internet edge. And also we would be integrating with the control plane via Radius, GTPC, DHCP, OSS, BSS with our control plane part, which is called the Maestro. And at the same time, we are consolidating the control plane and the data plane output in order to deliver the analytics and insights dashboard that we are talking about, which is the ANI portal that you would see on the top right. So the fact that we are seeing the complete data traffic, at the same time, we are receiving the control plane traffic. So we have the flexibility in order to correlate and merge both the subscriber information and the data information being generated by the subscriber. So with this correlation of data, we would be able to provide in terms of detailed content, everything regarding the internet consumption per user in different dimensions and different aspects. We talk about location, we talk about plan, device, content, access types, you name it. And also you would be able to integrate with OSS, BSS to add, like, for example, the gender, the nationality, date of birth, to understand more and more about the granularity and the insights being generated by your network. We have been present on a yearly basis from Sandvine to provide global internet phenomena, which is a report that we provide publicly for all enthusiastic in terms of internet consumption. For example, we have provided COVID-19 updates in terms of changes in worldwide trend, like video streaming being the top application being used, web gaming in the top 3. And at the same time, we have presented to all the audiences what has been deferred in terms of 2019 and versus 2020 when the lockdown started worldwide. So what was the impact on the network? And also we supported, based on the analytics that we have generated to our customers, to understand how they can optimize the network that they have in order not to impact the quality of experience and the KPIs being running on the network. If we move into the Sandvine Analytics portfolio, we have different use cases. We're going to have a small demo glimpse for a couple of minutes regarding network performance monitoring and analysis, service and subscriber analysis, video and gaming analysis. So let me just move into the demo section. So here we have a dashboard for that would cover all the reporting and live feed that we are presenting to our customers. So from one single point of entry, you would be able to hover and choose which output of data you would like to see. So the first welcoming page on Sandvine Active Network Intelligence portal is the scorecard page, where you would be able to check the scoring of the complete network based on web, video, messaging, online gaming, download, upload speed, and VoIP. Related to the subscriber count, has the changes between the different categories being consumed by the customer, and the rate from 0 to 5, where you are able to know if you are going to deliver from a network perspective a really good result from a subscriber experience, quality of service, and what is the impact of the changes on your network. We're providing throughput, latency, packet loss, and you would be able to check the differences in multiple dimensions by plan, by device, or by location. So if you would like to check it from geographical point of view. At the same time, you would be able to go over different aspects in terms of dashboards. So for example, I would like to check the performance and operational monitoring. In this case, what we are presenting here is live feed of the top services running on the network and their KPIs. So Netflix, Xbox Live, YouTube video, number of subscribers connected with the 5 minutes update average, the score, the latency, the average throughput, and also you can drill down in terms of a per service level aspect and to check how it's being consumed on a geographical area, and all the data regarding the score, throughput, latency for the past 1 day, the past 1 week, etc. Really interesting use cases that we are providing here also are video QoE analysis and gaming QoE analysis, where you would be able, for example, for gaming users, what are the top gaming applications that are being run into the network? What are their KPIs? Also, we would be profiling your network in terms of, do you have heavy gamers, frequent gamers? You would be able to provide really interesting data for your marketing and business teams in order to provide better understanding, thus providing additional plans into the market. A different aspect would be the video content and analysis, where we are able to provide also how the video content is being consumed into your network, how it's being split by service, by device, by location. Then you can move in terms of what are the top CDNs that you have, etc. So what we would like to show here in terms of what we are providing from our part as Sandvine is the fact that we have the most granular and advanced data sets from our side correlating with the control plane, which is the subscriber identity, would be able to provide you directly impacting data outputs with a standard dashboard, or you would be able to generate your custom advanced reports, if you like, in order to better understand your network, improve the quality of your network, improve the CapEx and OpEx that you have within the operation cost that is running into the network. And at the same time, keep in mind that the fact that we are having the most accurate and granular traffic classification engine would give you the edge in terms of making sure that all the reports that you are generating from our solution would be key in terms of giving you all the right data, and you would be able to take the action in the right way. I know that that is a lot of information in 15 minutes to cover. I'm trying to deliver the most out of this session, and looking forward if you have any additional one-to-one questions or inquiries, or even if you would like to request for a live demo. Sandvine team are really interested in terms of providing these kinds of webinars whenever it's ready. And I would like to thank John and the team in terms of giving Sandvine the chance to present our portfolio to you, and hopefully we'll see you in the next sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Fantastic presentation, Elie. You know, every time I hear Sandvine present, it's just fascinating to see the depth and the wealth of information available. Those stats on pre-COVID and post-COVID, very interesting. And thank you for bringing in a live demonstration. I think it was very well done in the time allowed. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right, so I'm going to take control back to myself, and I'm going to introduce the next speaker. Right, so next up we have Preggie Govender. Preggie is with Oracle Communications and talking today on building networks for competitive advantage. Let me introduce Preggie to you. Preggie has had 25 years work experience in the telecommunications industry. He joined Oracle Communications in 2019. Previously, Preggie worked for various operators, OEMs, and system integrators, including Telkom, Siemens, Genband, and Grintech Telecom. Preggie has a vast knowledge in both fixed and mobile networks, from access through to core, and he was responsible for IT, telecoms, and broadcasting for FIFA 2010 World Cup. So, without saying any more, please welcome Preggie. I have a different name up there of his presentation, but the one I gave you previously was the one we're going to use. Preggie, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Thanks, John. Do you see me?
Yeah, we can see you, and I've given you control.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see your presentation as well. Over to you. Thanks, Preggie.
Oh, okay. You can see the presentation. Okay, cool. Okay, good morning, guys. Thanks for giving me the time to speak a bit. It's quite a fascinating topic from Sandvine. I think it's always interesting to see what the different players are doing in the market space and how everything ties together to provide service providers with a competitive edge. This morning, I'm going to take some time and just talk to you about how Oracle Communications is involved in using analytics to provide you with a advantage in your network. And really, what's happening today? The previous presenter also spoke about it, but there's a lot of going on in IP networks at the moment. Different types of services that are being pushed out everywhere. Different types of interconnect, different types of borders. There's a lot of things happening and everywhere, and it's rapidly moving. And with things like Internet 2.0 or IoT adding to the whole equation, and speeds like that's going to come with 5G, we're in a position where there's a lot of stuff happening at very, very rapidly, and it's good for consumers, obviously. A little bit difficult for service providers because you got to now try and work out how you're going to be in control of these things. But more importantly, it also brings something which is fraud into the whole network. And I'll talk a little bit about this and how these things can be looked after and taken care of. So one of the major things for communication service providers, or CSPs as we call it in the telecom space these days, is that you have a lot of challenges. So like I said earlier, the market's moving very rapidly, and you want to try and keep up with them, with the market movement in terms of offering your customers the best services. And also with that, the customers tend to complain a lot as well. So you need to manage it. So there's a fine line between managing what's happening as well as trying to get these things out there. And important to that is to obviously have a good analytics system or database where you have all this information and it's readily available. So you can go down to it and check what's going on. So to make it quicker for responding to customers and making sure that things work as wanted. So in terms of service level agreements, so these are another things that customers have, that service providers have that they have to manage. So obviously you have your internal customers, your normal enterprises and so forth. And then you also have interconnects, which you have with other operators. And generally these things you have an SLA that you need to manage towards them. And it's important to manage this because these are areas where a lot of the time when it comes to fraud is not so much about the money that you are losing, it's about the money that you don't know you're losing. And in any business, these kind of things can add very significantly to the bottom line once you recover it. In terms of enterprises, business services for enterprises, so these are other areas where that touch your network, where you have to now be able to provide customers with solutions to make sure that you're checking for them, and especially now with COVID-19 and the fact that everybody's working from home or remotely, it brings about a whole range of new services. And the last 3 months we've seen a lot of interest in our solutions for remote working and for enterprises to move and push customers to go and work remotely. I mean, for example, Zoom has been a massive thing in the last 3 months, and Oracle Communications has been involved there. One of the things you want to do is to try and preserve the quality across the growth. So, I like that picture that's there, and it's really what it's illustrating is, you need to provide for the challenges that are involved with networks, and not to have any congestion, and make sure that everything is sized correctly. And with that, you have to have the right type of analytics to assist you in order to plan properly, so that you don't have, as you grow, you also grow together with your network sizing, so that you don't create any congestion in your network. And the previous speaker was talking about DPI, Sandvine, quite an important thing. And one of the things is to unleash the power of analytics, right? So it's what Oracle Communications has done is we're using the existing data that's in the networks and using various different ways to collect it, including our session border controller that we sell and a few other devices. And we put it into a mediation engine, we analyze it, and we come up with some graphical way of how we can actually look at it and make some KPIs, and then obviously have some feedback loop going back into it. And really, this is the way that you need to use analytics to your benefit, so that it's a closed loop where you can have structures in place where these things can be analyzed correctly, and to assist you with both from a customer perspective to make sure customers are happy, as well as to ensure that your network is being planned properly. And more importantly, I have a slide later on, which is quite important for me, is around fraud. I think with this analytic stuff, this is where we can help a lot. In terms of operations monitoring, one of the things that you have different levels of operations monitoring, and in any service provider network, and you have various skills or different levels that you need to give to different people. And this is one of some of the different ways. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I think service providers understand this, that you have different levels of people, and different levels of people need different access into these things. one of the things we do with the analytics that we provide is we provide a multi-layered interface back into the customers, the service provider, so that you can give people access to different things and roll things up. So it makes sense at a different level and when you're having these different meetings. There's really a broad range of issues that you normally need to deal with, especially when it comes to customers. And, from the fact that it's an internal customer to the fact that, you go to external customers as well at the end of everything. And really it's operating at these levels that make it important to maintain overall network health and to have a happy customer, and also to make sure that, you have your availability of the network. That is high. So one of the products I want to introduce into you today, very briefly, and we don't have a lot of time, like John says, we're quite happy to engage with you afterwards. Oracle Communications, we have what we call a session monitor. And really what it is it's based with three basic products that we sell. I'll go into details about it. And really what it is, it's looking at real-time end-to-end communications and looking at correlation, drilling down for data, and looking at things like your media quality, the customer experience. So the Sandvine person was talking about, engineer was talking about quality and service when it comes to data. This is service quality when it comes to voice and everything related to voice. And there's extensible apps, APIs, and there's three specific products that we have around it: Fraud Monitor, OCOM, and the Enterprise Operations Monitor, which is a smaller version of the Operations Monitor that's more for enterprise focused. So you can provide with these three products at different levels of different operations that I mentioned in the previous slide, so that it allows you to give customers these sort of things so that it's possible to have it. So Fraud Monitor, like I said, it's quite important. That's why I've got a slide on it specifically. So, the cool thing about it is it detects fraud as it happens. So like I said, with the majority of service providers, they actually don't know a lot of the time if fraud is occurring in the network, because you're not getting that revenue, or it's fraudulent revenue. So it's not from your normal customers. So if you don't have any revenue assurance systems in place, or even if you take a long time to do these things, the fraud can go undetected. So this detects frauds as it happens. It's near real time. It uses all the data we collect in the network from the probes that I mentioned. And it's fully agnostic to any different type of attack. I mean, there's a whole list of different types of fraudulent attacks. I'll talk about it a bit later. And it's completely dynamic. So you put the box in, you plug it in. It's a bit like the DPI systems from Sandvine. It's got some intelligence built into it. So it automatically will detect and work out, okay, what are the traffic call patterns on a voice perspective that's happening in your network? What are people doing? What are the typical scenarios with voice and how it's happening during the day? And then based on that, once it has a baseline of your network, which it does automatically, it'll then work out if there's any anomalies. So if somebody starts making phone calls midnight and they're phoning some premium rated number, automatically it will detect this. And then it'll pick it up, it'll give you an alert, as well as, it's a complete end-to-end system. So it can also, besides alerting, it can also push configurations and block IP addresses and prevent the fraud from happening completely. So we've seen it, putting up some interesting press articles there. We've seen it in the press all the time. In fact, it was just a couple of days ago when I was chatting to John about the presentation. I was telling him that I saw in the local news in South Africa that Telkom's call center got hacked. These things are very prevalent. I mean, even big telecom organizations. Yesterday in the news in South Africa, I heard that one of the big hospital groups got hacked as well. So these things are day to day. It's happening all over the world. It's happening in very much different types of ways, and it's not something we can hide from, right? So, and the biggest thing about it is that you need to make sure you need to have security as your first and initial thing. Security needs to be a big part of a service provider strategy, and it has to be onerous on them to make sure that they do that from the beginning and continuously, right? And across all levels. So, security in terms of the data network, security in terms of the voice network. And this is where Oracle systems can actually help you guys. There's some interesting information about the different types of fraud and how it affects the market and how it affects service providers. So a large percentage of frauds when it comes to the voice part of it is identity theft. So what happens is somebody can come in, they'll steal your voice credentials. So for example, if you're on a Teams client and somebody knows your username and password, they can go into another Teams client, download it, use your username and password, connect to the network. So according to the network, all that security that we have in the network, including the SPC, it sees you as a normal user, so it doesn't know anything different. And what happens is then is you connect as a malicious user using somebody else's account, and then you make calls to your own networks or wherever it is, and then this is how people bypass your security and create fraud in your network. That's a serious concern because when it comes to the voice side of it, like I said, as much as you can try and secure things, if somebody steals somebody's identity, it's really an end-to-end security concepts that you need to have in checking end user devices. And one of the challenges with that as well is, a lot of the times the end users devices you probably don't have control over, especially when you have customers that are roaming or you have services that you've rolled out a long time ago and you haven't been updating the actual end devices, or like a lot of the time, like I said, you don't have control over this because you don't actually manage it. So with this whole also, bring your own device, work from home, a lot of that time, these are devices you cannot control. And even if you can control it, it's hard. So, big IT companies struggle with this. And this is really a huge thing when it comes to fraud. So some of the vulnerabilities that are coming out to be emerging, as you can see, when it comes to voice, denial of service attack is very big on the data side. And I'm sure the Sandvine guy can tell you quite a lot about it. But when it comes to voice, denial of service is not a big thing. Most of the time, what the guys do is they will do a check on your network. So they'll do a port scan and see what's happening and try and figure out which ports are open. And then what happens is once they know it, it's more about trying to create service theft, right? Which you can see is a 40% by taking the person's identity and using the existing network and going and doing stuff. And then, obviously, the nuisance calling also is not a big thing in the industry when it comes to voice. But yeah, I think it's still very big. And now with more and more people working from home, it becomes even worse because it's harder to secure those networks, right? Like I said earlier on, you don't know and you can't control a lot of the time on what people are doing when they're working remotely and from what devices they're actually connecting to the network. So fraud really, like I said earlier on, it's I've got quite a few slides about it. For me, it's really big, right? And then this is one of the ways we chat with a lot of customers and open up conversations, when you talk to them and find out about stuff and start doing some, like if the guys have DPI, you go and check it out and you see what's happening and then pick up that there's, IP addresses that are coming into your network from somewhere else. So these are things that is a really a big thing, especially in our continent, in Africa, with the fact that people see this as an easier way to try and get, because it's so far away from the rest of the world. If you have a local telco that has an interoperation agreement with an international partner, and somebody commits fraud and they dial the international number, it's very hard for somebody like in Africa to try and get back and say, guys, listen, this is actually fraud, try and prosecute the guys, and it becomes very difficult. So, we've done a lot of cases where we've gone putting equipment into a customer's network and, ready to run for a couple of days, and then straight away picks up, okay, yes, this is what's happening in terms of the fraud. And, that has led to the service provider getting some of that money back and obviously understanding as well how to close these security holes up. And the fraud monitor and operations monitor that we sell is completely independent of our session border controllers or any other device that we sell as Oracle. So in terms of, just watching the time, sorry, in terms of the strategy, like I said, what you want to do is get the network visibility, that gives you early warning systems, identify who the people that are doing it, right? And then lastly, have some policies. So similar with DPI, you have some policies. So you want to control the traffic, so you can block these IP addresses, you can block a range of IPs. So this is the kind of strategy that you want to get to make sure that you're not going to get hit by fraud.
Preggie?
In terms of, yeah.
We've got a 4-minute buffer. No, we've got a 4-minute buffer, so please carry on, huh?
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks, thanks, John. I'll spend some time on this slide. So one of the interesting things, like I mentioned earlier, is that we're really seeing this as a huge thing in across the globe actually when it comes to fraud. And one of the things that Oracle systems bring with it is we have from a communications perspective, we have these products in our portfolio, but we also have access to a lot of the stuff like the database, the artificial intelligence, analytics, machine learning that the Oracle has been doing for years and years, and we leverage off this. So one of the things we've been doing in terms of improving our fraud product is that we've augmented it with a cloud service. So we said, okay, guys, listen, what we can do is we can connect our operations monitor, fraud monitor that we have at your premises, service provider's premises, back into the Oracle cloud, where we have this access to this huge computing power, machine learning, and other capabilities. And really, what that's done, it's made it almost real time that we can actually now look at these things and analyze it and pick up the threats and also push it to your network. So, for example, if there's if that particular hospital group was on Oracle network and we picked up that they were going to get hacked, what we could do is, and that set of IP addresses that was doing the hacking, we could then publicly send it out to all our end customers instantaneously. And by doing that, prevent anybody else by getting hacked by the same people. And this is a huge thing that's coming up. And what it really brings on is the whole power that's behind the Oracle brand, as well as the technology that we have as Oracle, and what we're doing with it into the whole fraud protection and security perspective. So this is something we're moving towards in terms of strategy as Oracle systems or Oracle communications, and it's really very exciting for us. It's a new product. It's going to be probably launched in July, and we just started our financial year now in the beginning of this month. The next month we're going to launch this new product that augments what we have and ties it into the cloud and provides a lot more visibility into the bigger markets and what's happening with that, and bringing that information and allowing us to have a better service to our customers. So like I said, it's from on-premises security to fraud monitor and to security shield. We have a full range of end-to-end systems that does analytics, that does prevention, then it does detection and prevention. So I just want to quickly summarize. This is the last slide I'm going to talk around. Really what it is our solution, our sessions monitor solutions. It's for end-to-end. It's for calls. It's for end-to-end calls. It's completely independent of any other products that we sell as Oracle. Very advanced audio and video capabilities, and then you can drill down completely. You can look at all the sub-ladder messages. You can get the PCAPs, and then, like I said, the fraud detection is completely automatic, and that's really one of the big benefits of it. And also, looking for, if you're having issues on the network side, to manage media quality and so forth. And then it's completely open-ended. We have extensible APIs, so you can plug in into any existing OSS, BSS system that you have or you're using. That's it from my side. There's some information. John, over to you.
Thank you very much, Preggie. Fantastic presentation. Again, when I watch you present on what Oracle's got to offer, it's just amazing. Let me just take control back there. Thank you so much. Yeah, Preggie. So, OCSM, that's another term we need to learn now, but certainly really fascinating to see how you're putting your offerings into a single platform. And that information on voice fraud, very interesting. I've seen we've got a few customers on the line right now that are very focused in the voice space. So I'm sure they took a lot of notice of that. Right, so moving on. Next up, we have one of our own speakers. So our CTO, Rudolf Venter, is going to speak to you about open source analytics tools. I have been with Rudy in customers where he's spoken about this, and that's why I pulled them onto Smartexpo. I think it's really fascinating. Let me introduce Rudy to you. Right, so Rudy Venter, he worked for MTN before co-founding Khoury Africa in 2010 with Stanley Fryman and Claire Kanan. Certified as both CCIE, JNCIE, along with, and I must tell you, a CV is a mile long, multiple other certifications. I didn't want to list them all here. And is currently the CTO for Khoury Africa. So please welcome Rudy Venter with open source analytics tools. Rudy, I'm going to hand over to you now. Here we go. Rudolf Venter. Right, so there we go. Right, Rudy, I'm taking myself off and giving to you. We can see you, but not your presentation yet. Right, we can see you. We can't hear you yet.
Thanks a lot.
No,
thanks
we can hear you.
John.
Your presentation, fantastic. Off you go.
Cool. Thanks a lot, John. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, morning, everybody. I'm just going to go through some open source analytic tools, some specifically covering some use cases that we've implemented for some of our customers, just to sort of create awareness what sort of things are possible. Obviously 15 minutes is not a lot of time to go through a lot of these. Analytics is a big topic by itself, but I think the two sort of real life use cases give you ability to understand what is possible, what is around in this area. So going towards just to introduction to the two sort of use cases that I'm going to look at. Just going to look at some of the general sort of operator pain points. We've basically got a general lack of visibility around the services which the operators sell. It becomes very tricky these days because you've got quite a bit of a separation between the services and the actual physical infrastructure. It's not just like a physical interface that provides the service. There's a lot of components that builds it. So you have to basically look at multiple different things and try and correlate all this data. So it becomes quite challenging doing it with the sort of basic graphing type systems. Many different tools are around in all these operators, sort of measuring different components, but again, trying to put all this data together in one sort of view to try and troubleshoot issues is quite challenging. You basically have quite a lot of issues these days to troubleshoot subscriber quality of experience issues. In order to do that, you obviously have to have a lot of information, and if you have to go look at different systems, it becomes quite challenging. Just generally troubleshooting issues when you've got data that's very very long periods between the different sample points. 5-minute averages typically it's not good enough these days, especially with the microburst type issues. So again, you need to basically have more data, higher frequencies of data stored, which obviously presents quite a bit of extra challenges. So going into the two use cases, obviously these are sort of use cases that we've helped operators with before, and that predominantly sort of covering operational areas, particularly a NOC, for NOC troubleshooting, sort of NOC views and troubleshooting within the NOC, and then the operations team troubleshooting issues, giving them insight in what's happening so that they can actually resolve issues for some of their subscribers. So the first use case here, we've got a BNG dashboard which we built for a customer. The customer basically have an environment where there's a highly available BNG architecture with stateful redundancy. So you've got a master node and a slave node, and all the subscribers are synchronized between them. So there's obviously, with the redundancy comes a lot of complexity maintaining or understanding the state of the service. Is all the subscribers actually synchronized between the two nodes? You basically need to sort of track the two BNGs at the same time, because traffic can shift between the one to the other. So it's quite complex to actually understand or have a view to really understand, is the service working or not? If there's an issue, where is the issue? So in order to do that, you obviously have to look at correlate data from many different aspects, different parts of the service, looking at the traffic, throughput, the subscriber counts, AAA events, looking at the routing table, basically all the redundancy states of the platform itself. And then there's also basically additional testing that you can do extra on top of that to actually test the actual service, making sure that you can connect and actually work around that. So in this particular use case, basically use the following components. We used streaming telemetry, streaming the sensor data from the actual BNGs. We then ingested that data into an influx database and basically tagged all the relevant data on interface names and aliases to make the actual data in the database quite valuable, so that you can actually aggregate it at different levels. We then also developed some custom Unix scripts to actually go do tests on different access profiles to the different sort of BNG groups in order to actually make sure that the actual service can connect, so simulate a subscriber connection, and do a couple of sort of basic ping tests just to get a trend and confirm the working of the system. And then we basically, in order to display and bring all this data together, we use Grafana, which is an open source analytics dashboard tool, which has ability to connect to multiple databases in order to actually sort of visualize that into a pane. So we obviously have, from a dashboard perspective, we basically created a summary dashboard. This is typically a dashboard that would be in the NOC. In this dashboard, we basically tried to give a fairly high-level sort of view of all the different sort of metrics around the actual different redundancy groups. So you'll see basically on the left-hand side, we've got the node A's, and on the right-hand side, we've got the node B's of the different clusters. There's three redundancy groups, 1, 2, and 3. So as you can see, there's a lot of information, and this is purely at a summary level even, but effectively we're tracking for the master nodes. You can see the state of the node, if it's master or slave. You can basically have a look at this subscriber. You see the subscriber count. There's a bit of a trend of, so you can see if there's anything majorly changed. And there's a throughput, all the redundancy states, is the redundancy connection between the nodes synchronized. So there's a lot of data in here, but it's basically to try and give sort of a very high level view. Obviously, once there's issues, and there's also the test results, ultimately the output. So this basically sort of increases the counter if there's any failed tests. Will come up a red and increase the counters. Will give you a good indication of there's actually a potential issue with the service. These sort of tests that we run is basically as it's very difficult to just by clearly looking at the metrics to identify issues. The test is sort of a double check at the end to make sure can a connection actually establish, and is it actually reachable towards the internet. So as soon as there's a failure there's a good chance that there is an issue. And then we basically build, in order to really go see what is the issue or where is the issue, we basically built the dashboard much more detailed that you can drill into. So you can click on that that specific group, redundancy group, and then basically it goes into a much more detailed dashboard where you can actually cover a lot of the metrics in a much more granular detail. Obviously, these dashboards, the other thing just to mention about these dashboards, you can actually change the time window that you're looking at, even by on the right and top side, or you can actually just go use your mouse and actually drag or select a specific time area, and that will basically update the time. So you could drill into a specific smaller window of time if you pick up a trend that's deviating. Otherwise, you can basically just select a specific time frame that you want to look at. So it gives you ability to look at a bigger time frame, pick up there's a trend change, and then you can drill down into a deeper sort of level. So in this particular sort of detailed one, we basically again just covered the actual general HA cluster metrics. We then basically also provided throughput and subscriber counts based on relative to the actual logical interfaces, so you can actually see the detail of logical interfaces. These logical interfaces typically maps back to an access node, so it gives you ability to track any sort of location-based challenges. So if there's a failure in access network, you would see traffic dropping for that particular access network. We also bring in the AAA events. So obviously all your authentication requests and responses, we track those events. So you can, if you see a spike in authentication requests, it's likely that there could be an issue with either the radius server not responding, or there could be access failure, which basically causes a lot of users to reconnect, generating that sort of peak. So again, just in all these panels, you can move around in different sort of places, but it gives you on the same timeline, you can basically correlate spikes. If you see spikes in AAA events, you can correlate it to the subscriber counts as well as the throughput, etc. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in that case. Then we get to the sort of right-hand side area. We've basically incorporated the PPO test that we do. So those scripts basically test different subscriber profiles. In this case, there was also different pools, IP pools. So obviously the different IP pool potentially gets routed differently on the internet. So each of those tests run every 10 minutes, makes a PPO connection, and then it basically does a couple of ping tests to get a sort of overall to different locations to get you overall round trip time trend. So again, there you'll be able to pick up if there's major changes in behavior. So I'm hoping this basically gives you a bit of an idea of how you can correlate data together. There's obviously, if you had to look at sort of traditional sort of graphing systems, you would have to go look at many different sort of graphs and then try and sort of in your mind try and put all this data together. So with these dashboards, you can actually bring a lot of the data together within the same timeline, and then it gives you ability to correlate the data accordingly. So that's basically the BMG use case. So the next one was basically specifically also around troubleshooting user experience issues. So we built a couple of network QE dashboards. In this particular use case, we basically incorporated speed test dashboards, voice over IP dashboards, analyzing voice quality, and then we added some subscriber QE dashboards where we basically sampled the 10-second peak and average throughputs for a subscriber, as well as the access and internet round trip times on a per subscriber basis. In this particular use case, we used basically a Sandvine environment to generate a lot of the measurements. So we wrote some custom policies to generate measurements, and then basically log that data to an external Logstash system. This data, which basically ingested the data into an Elasticsearch database. which again is an index database. It gives you ability to tag all the different data with all the sort of measurements and data with specific tags. So in this case, typically we would tag it with the plan, the access network, the actual NASs, all that sort of data, which gives you ability then to group data and results accordingly. And we use Grafana again for a dashboard to bring all this data together. So the first dashboard, basically, we built this around speed test. So speed test has obviously become the most operator's biggest nightmare, as customers are basically using the results of these speed tests to be compare and determine if they get what they're paying for. So obviously tracking these sort of, or understanding what's happening, understanding the behavior of subscribers using speed tests is obviously a key part. Speed test is also just generally an indicator. If there's an issue, typically people, when they have an issue, they start running speed tests. So again, we wrote some custom policy just to analyze the speed tests that actually happens, the throughput, the latency, so that you can actually drill down and see what the actual issues were with the speed test, getting the speed that they're supposed to, and then ultimately use that to correlate back to issues. In this particular sort of dashboards, we grouped it typically by the access networks and plans, so that you can basically get behavior, especially around the access network in the regions. You can effectively pick up trends if a specific access network or a region suddenly have lots of speed tests being run. The chances are that there's some issue within that grouping. It also helps you to eliminate if there's no common trend across the access network. It's obviously more subscriber specific issue when you pick up issues. We then again also did a detailed drill down dashboard. In this case, we can basically drill down to a specific subscriber, have a look at the speed test that they've ran within the provided time frame that we specify in the dashboard, and then we basically have all the detailed information based on the planned speed, what the actual test, the download throughput was, what the upload throughput was for that test, how long that test actually ran, then also the access and the internet round-trip times, which typically help you to try and correlate and see if there's any common issues or is it subscriber specific type issues. We did some VoIP ones as well. Again, here we just basically use the Sandvine to analyze the VoIP quality based on MOS scores, and then we classify these into basic categories, and we can either have a summary sort of summarized view of it, or we can actually have a time-based view. The next one is basically the subscriber query dashboards. These ones are quite key to compare basically the actual throughput that the average throughput that the customer is experiencing over the time period, and compare it based on his plan speed. So you can actually see is the actual subscriber sort of reaching his plan speed from an average perspective or a 10-second peak perspective. So typically when customers have challenges, you can basically use this to give you some insight and is he actually getting to his plan speed? Is there underlying issues that's sort of standing out? And then in the second sort of row is basically at the packet level instead of the bitrate level. So it gives you again different views and different metrics to look at. Then the following one is quite an interesting one, which also helps quite a lot to eliminate sort of common issues across the access network. Yeah, we basically just take the round trip times on the access and the internet side. So you can basically see the max versus the average comparison, and then basically here on the left bottom side, we basically, depending on what access network that subscriber is linked to, we basically compare have a comparison towards the access network average. So we actually show the access network, the network average round-trip time compared to his own. So you can quickly see, is he common always over the average of the access network, or is it actually or is he below? So it helps you to eliminate, is it a access network related issue or not. So these are all sort of things that you can bring in. And again, it's just bringing the data, grouping it by different sort of areas, gives you the ability to correlate issues. And then the last one, just to give you a bit of a sense as well, in this case, we basically bring in real-time application protocols. And again, you can use that data, again, throughputs, average rates. You can basically use that to correlate towards any of the other sort of metrics. In this case, we've got the RTT above it, so you can sort of see if there's any correlations between issues. So thanks a lot. I think that's sort of in a nutshell. It's obviously a lot of data to go through, but yeah, quite welcome to do some deep dive sections there. Thanks a lot.
Fantastic, Rudy. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. You know, I've had the pleasure of sitting with Rudy in customer presentations, and I must say it's always wonderful to see the customer's face when Rudy presents, and how they want to almost chain him to the desk in order to implement something like this before he leaves. But Rudy, always great to hear your presentation. Thank you so much. And thanks for coming on and putting Core Africa's flag in the sand and presenting this fantastic tool that you have developed. All right, so next up we have Onsel Kuluk from Blue Planet. He is going to be talking to us on Blue Planet's multi-layer networking solution. Let me introduce Onsel to you. Always nice when I get a really detailed, oopsie, what's going on here? Okay, there we go. Detailed bio from someone. So Onsel Kuluk's career spans over 10 years in engineering and solution architecture. Prior to joining Blue Planet, Onsel was a system engineer at Packet Design, and before that he held the roles of backbone operation engineer and datacom engineer at Turkcell and Khoury. Onsel holds a Bachelor of Science in Physics Engineering and a Master of Science in Information Systems from Hacettepe University, Ankara, Turkey. And currently, Onsel is working as a solution architect at Blue Planet in the European region, mainly focused on the Unified Assurance and Analytics portfolio. Interestingly, he's also a published author. So without saying much more, please welcome Onsel Kuluk, and he's going to talk to us on Blue Planet's multi-layer networking solution. Right, so I need to get my screen up. Where are we? Where are we? Oh, man. Just give me 1 second. I've lost my screen, and here we have it back. Right. So I'm going to hand control over to Onsel. There we go. Right. Take my camera off. Onsel, we can see you. We can't see your presentation yet.
Okay, so let me.
We can hear you, so that's great.
Okay, so is my presentation visible to you now?
We can see you and your presentation and hear you. I'm handing over. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, John, for the introduction. And I also think that we should owe a big thanks to all Core Africa team for taking initiative to organize such events, which could be very helpful to all of the stakeholders. And also. I'm just checking everyone. Hopefully everyone is safe and doing well in Corona days. And speaking of it, I was thinking myself yesterday, like it would be very interesting to discuss the multi-layer structure of human soul in these strange days. But I put myself together all of a sudden, and I said, okay, come on, Onsel, it's a tech event, so let's get on track. That's why today in this session I'm going to be going through the multi-layer structure of networks and Blue Planet's multi-layer networking solution. Okay, so let's get rolling then. Okay, first I'll talk a little bit about our overall portfolio and we'll get into specifics for multi-layer solution for sure. And as seen here, Blue Planet's intelligent automation portfolio is comprised of a few components, and these components have different roles to enable closed loop automation on the network. And let me give you a quick brief for each component here. An inventory solution gathers the data from the network and also from several inventory systems, and it federates the inventory information across domains so that you can have a single view of your network in terms of inventory management. And we also have unified assurance. And let me go through this slide again. So I was saying that Blue Planet's intelligent automation portfolio is comprised of a few components, and these components have different roles. And our aim is to enable closed loop automation on the network. And I started going through the components here, and I was saying that inventory solution gathers the data from the network and also from several inventory systems, and it federates this data across the domains so that you can have a single view of your network in terms of inventory management. And unified assurance and analytics is responsible for monitoring the services along with the alarm correlation, as well as many other capabilities from assurance and analytics perspective. And the next one is Array. It is formerly known as Packet Design's Explorer Suite. And Array provides real-time visibility in the control plane and data plane. And the last one is multi-domain services and NFV orchestration. And this orchestrator works with all of the other components in the portfolio in harmony and takes care of the orchestration of the network elements in order to complete the automation process at all. And our vision, as I mentioned earlier, is to enable closed loop automation on multi-domain and multi-vendor networks by considering control plane, data plane, inventory, and service assurance data. And of course, if you'd like to automate your network, you have to understand your network. You cannot automate something that you don't know. As an example, let's say you would like to automate a service creation process. You need to know customer constraints, maybe latency protection requirements, and you need to have the inventory information. You need to have the data plane information to be able to understand if the provision service is in capacity limits and so forth. So in short, you need to have the analytics data. And these components provide all of the required data to make automated decisions on the network. And the orchestrator takes action accordingly. So this is how our overall portfolio looks like. And let's move into our Array component where multi-layer networking is enabled. So here are the Array modules and the portfolio. As mentioned briefly earlier, Array provides control plane, data plane information, and the correlated performance metrics for the network. And Route Explorer, which is our base module, is responsible for providing real-time control plane visibility by interacting with control plane protocols themselves, like interacting with IGP, BGP, and it discovers the network and it listens to all of the network events through direct IGP adjacencies and BGP peerings. And with this way, Array has the path information, which is very critical. And it knows how to get from A to B, B to C, C to D. And once we have this path information, other modules can be added on top of this routing module. As an example, Traffic Explorer provides data plane information with a unique path-based approach. It works with NetFlow data, and NetFlow packets do have source and IP destination fields, right? And Route Explorer knows how to get to that destination from that source so that it can project the traffic along the path based on this information, which is very unique. And it enables extensive reporting capabilities and driving what-if scenarios and running simulations on the network. And Performance Explorer gathers performance measurements from the network and correlates with the routing data. And SDN automation piece contains a couple of apps where you can optimize your traffic engineering tunnels and Also, you can look up paths by considering the specified constraints like low latency, diversity, protection, and so forth. And the one we'd like to focus today is multi-layer networking, also included in our OA. So let's have a look at what was our initiative to create this solution based on the feedbacks we've been getting from the field and based on the pain points that we would like to address. So these are some of the challenges that we aim to address with our multi-layer module. And of course, it's quite hard to answer these questions without such visibility. And if you are in an IP team or in an optical team, it doesn't matter. It is really difficult to answer these questions quickly. So this is what myself also experienced while I was working in one service provider's IP backbone operation and planning team. So it's quite strange that these two teams, optical team and the IP teams, are so disjoint from each other. IP team is kind of blind to optical network, and optical team is kind of blind to IP network. And that's why the operation and even planning processes get hurt, because there always needs to be a communication channel that has to be managed in each and every incident or inquiry. And let's go through each question here. Are IP outages caused by optical outages? So it's always a mystery at T0. You cannot know this because the outage could be due to a router or an optical device or a fiber cut. And in IP team, you'll get many alarms, and you have to guess if these alarms are due to a fiber cut or not. And you need to consult with optical team, and it definitely requires time and collaboration work. And what IP services will be affected by a fiber cut? This is also very challenging. You can find this information by asking optical team, and if everything is configured properly, service descriptions and other things, optical port and router port bindings and everything is configured properly, you'll get this data. But mostly you have to deal with some unexpected link failures, as the data may not be accurate, and of course, as you may expect, this is a very common issue. And the other one, what IP services were impacted during my transport outage last week? So it comes down to the fact that you have the historical data or not. So ROA collects the data from the network and collects the most valuable data, including control plane, data plane, and performance metrics. And it stores this data on its databases so that users can go back in time and see how their network looked like at a particular time, or they can just make forensic analysis accordingly. And it also provides historical information for multi-layer networks. And with this way, not only with the existing failures, but also with the historical failures you can deal with, and you can make forensic analysis by examining this data. And are my redundant LSPs really diverse? So it's also very important. You can create redundant and diverse LSPs in IP layer, but these LSPs may not be diverse in optical layer. If there's a common failure point for these services, your redundancy will be useless when there's a failure, and your KPIs will get hurt. Okay, you will guarantee the protection service, protected service to your customers, and your credibility will get hurt just because you don't have this visibility at the same time. And how to manage services that are controlled by many different systems. Of course, IP and optical services are strictly bound to each other, but the monitoring systems are different, and this actually creates a lack of visibility on the network. And with that said, Blue Planet's multi-layer solution can be used in order to address these challenges. And let's now take a look at the additional benefits of it. First of all, and probably the most important one, it is vendor neutral, both in IP MPLS and optical network. Okay, so you don't have to have a specific network gear, both in optical or IP MPLS network. it is vendor neutral. And it enables the correlation between IP paths and optical paths. I'll show you a couple of screenshots about that. And it provides a single view of overlay and underlay networks. And of course, it keeps the recorded data, which enables users to make historical analysis. As I mentioned earlier, it speeds up the troubleshooting process by enhancing the visibility for both optical and IP teams. And in order to maintain the redundancy and diversity, it is possible for users to consider the constraints not only in IP networks, but also in optical networks. So if you have an SLRG value running both in IP layer and optical layer, of course, you may want to consider both values in order to create a real diverse service, right? So our way is capable of collecting these values both from IP, MPLS, and optical domains, and it can marry these statistics together while looking at paths or provisioning in a service. Last but not least, orchestration can be done in multi-layer. So if you'd like to automate your IP network, you have to consider the parameters in optical network, because IP network is surely running on top of transport network, right? And with this solution, it is possible to consider both types of parameters while automating the network. And let's see how it looks on the UI. So in pure IP MPLS solution, so it is provided by our way as well. You can look up an IP path between any source and destination in IP network, and when you drill into that path, it will be displayed in a minimap where you can see the details of it. I mean, the control plane statistics, the data plane statistics, correlated performance metrics, and everything. You can have all of this information on one page. And with multi-layer extension, users are also able to examine the optical path underneath. So if there's a failure on the network, users can easily figure out whether this is an optical failure or an IP failure. And this is quite useful from visualization perspective, but of course, visualization is not only one of the benefits. It's not only the benefit that you can get from the system. Multi-layer module doesn't mean multi-layer visualization only from our point of view. And one of the other benefits is the correlation and service finding across layers. So this is a screenshot from optical service listing page. As you can see, the services are visualized on the map, and further optical service parameters, of course, can be examined by going further. And it's critical to have the last column, as you can see on the screen, the client links, where you can see the associated IP links for each service. And of course, it's not limited to this. So you can jump to IP links from optical service or vice versa. You can click on an IP link and check which optical services are utilizing that particular link, or you can do the otherwise. And with these capabilities, users can have single pane of glass visibility into their multi-layer network with real-time and historical insights to IP and optical paths. Then let's have a quick look at how it works. It includes two subcomponents. ROA is surely required to discover the IP network, record multi-layer network, handle the visualization, and to be able to do traffic engineering and make planning on the network. Okay, ROA is the base module for sure. And discovery component has its own resource adapters to discover optical networks. And you can think of resource adapters as collectors, and these adapters are created per device type. So it can interact with optical nodes directly or interact with optical management systems and controllers. As an example, you can see on the screen, MCP is the management platform for Sienna optical gear. But it's, of course, this solution is not limited to Sienna gear only. So to sum up, Array is responsible for discovering layer 3 networks, and the discovery component is responsible for discovering optical network. Okay, and once the optical topology is collected, of course, there needs to be an IP optical port correlation. Okay, which optical device is connected to which router, and these questions need to be answered, right? And this can be done manually by importing from a spreadsheet, for example. So of course, it's gonna be one-time job, or let's say it's not gonna be a frequent thing that you have to deal with. And in the meantime, we are looking to do it automatically as well, like using LLDP snooping protocol. It's on our short-term roadmap, and it's going to be taken care by the system automatically in short term. And you have IP MPLS data or network, and you have optical network, and you have all of the parameters like control plane, data plane, performance metrics, SLRG values. Now, if you would like to automate your network, if you would like to configure your network, like provisioning tunnels, and the resource adapters will take care of this job as well. And I think that concludes my session. So I would like to thank you again, John, and of course, please feel free to reach out to me, and you can also touch base with Core2Africa guys if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Onsel. That's a really great presentation, and I must say it's always difficult for me as the MC to sort of intervene on time. You did run over a bit, but we really appreciated it. What a great presentation, and I thank you very much for that. All right, so that brings us to the end of the Delivered at Smartexpo. My thanks again to Sandvine, Oracle Communications, Core2Africa, and Blue Planet for delivering great presentations to us as a community. Right, so finally, let me just run through quickly a quick shout out to our main sponsor, Core2Africa. Core2Africa turns 10 years old this month in June, so it's a really great year for us, great month for us. Don't know what we're going to be doing during the lockdown, social distancing, but we'll have to see about that. So just quickly, Core2Africa works in these 5 different areas: subscriber networks and analytics, automation and protection. If you've been paying attention to the themes that we've been using for the first 5 of these Smart Expos, that is what we've covered. Professional services, we have a complete range of professional services to assist customers with regard to implementing projects. Also, from a support point of view, a lot of bolt-on add-on services to the standard OEM services that are available to customers delivered by Core2Africa. And then finally, locations where Core2Africa is located: Mauritius, South Africa, Uganda, Rwanda, and Kenya. So again, thanks to Core2Africa for sponsoring Smart Expo, and we certainly think that it's been very beneficial. The feedback we've had from US customers in your surveys that have come back to us, the feedback that we've had from OEMs, we certainly think that's done the community a world of good to keep us in touch between the various parties in the telco, service provider, and mobile operator space. Right, so just quickly, we're going to do the spin to win. I know we've drawn 3 names out of the hat. This has happened behind the scenes. We're now going to, there's 3 gift vouchers. The one is going to be handed out when you've completed the surveys, and we take a draw out of that. So someone could actually win twice. So I'm going to hand over at this point in time to Denise Mzak. Let me just get her up on the screen. Denise, are you ready? Let me just see if I can hand the screen to her, and she is going to do. Hi, Denise. So we need to see your camera. We can hear you.
Great.
Can see you. Off you go. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to everybody for joining us today on our Smart Expo Virtual Live Analytics event, and hope that everybody enjoyed listening to our speakers. I'm going to move on to announcing our winners, but first need to say thank you to our sponsors. Our vouchers have been sponsored by each one of our speakers. Firstly, Oracle Communications, Sandvine, Core2Africa, and Sienna Blue Planet. The 3 vouchers that are being handed out now are for the 3 attendees, and the 4th voucher, as John has already mentioned, will be given out to the attendee who completes our, or at least one of the attendees who completes our event survey. So the first winner is Norman Ganti, and then we have Renee Manzi and Rafael Abadam. Congratulations, guys, and you'll get your voucher soon. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Denise. That's the lady that puts a lot of background work into Smartexpo. Our thanks to her. She's Chief Event Coordinator, as I said earlier. So thank you very much, Denise, for what you do for us in this Smartexpo community, if I can put it like that. All right, so Spin to Win, we've now done. Let me just give you a quick heads up. This will be 2 minutes more and we're done. Next Smartexpo events, we have on the 24th of June, we have Smartexpo Subscriber. On the 8th of July, we have Smartexpo Automation. And just added, which we're taking a little bit of a different flavor to Smartexpo, we're going to have a round table. On the 22nd of July, we have Optimizing Your Internet Access. So we're going to have a round table of industry experts discussing the different ways you can optimize access to the internet to give your users a better user experience. And that's going to be really interesting. We're going to have opinions from industry leaders telling you what you can do. So follow us or go to khouryafrica.net/Smartexpo and be sure to sign up for these different events as they're coming up. And don't forget, if you do join and stay till the end, you have a chance to win those great vouchers. Right, so we'll send an email out to you shortly with the Analytics archive, where you'll have access, as I said earlier, to the replay and all the documentation. You'll also have the link to the event survey. And so please complete that. It's very valuable for us to hear from you, that we know how to improve these events to make them better for you in the future. And obviously, we'll announce the winners. Again, we'll just give it in email form as well. So that's really great. Right, so moving on. Be sure to follow us on LinkedIn. We are at Smartexpo-Africa-IOI, Indian Ocean Islands, and on Facebook, Smartexpo. Be sure to follow us there and stay in touch with us as we set up and run these Smartexpo events. Well, that's it. Again, thanks to our OEMs, Sandvine, Oracle, in this case, Khoury Africa and the Blue Planet. To all the speakers, we really appreciate your time, giving us your time today. And we're going to play out now with a short video, but the event is over for now. Thank you so much, everyone. See you next time.